Welcome back to Before You Do with Verlyn. Thank you for being here. I'm your host and favorite premarital coach, Verlyn Tarlton. Today's topic is you have the right to remain silent. And let me tell you what I'm seeing. And this just happened recently. Although I've been seeing this on a regular basis, I'm really starting to see it even more. I was in a mixed company meeting, meaning it was a group of men and women, probably about 50-50, maybe 40-60. And we were having a discussion, and I wanted to share, or rather, I shared a point of view that was just a little different, not totally off or off the cuff, but it was just a different thought process I was having about the subject. And as soon as I said it, a second later, I had someone say, well, such and such, but we all know when you hear the word but, that means there's a rebuttal coming and that the person is saying, well, you said whatever, but I'm getting ready to say this. And so what happened was the thing that I said or the thought I presented, basically it was corrected, or in a sense, it was redirected to give the impression that maybe I was a little off what I was saying. It was a clear rebuttal. Very gentle, very nice. And she definitely, I'm certain, did not mean any harm, but it was as though she didn't want people to take what I was saying and run with it, right? It was kind of like, well, let me just make sure I correct this. And I get sometimes that we can be protective of people. I'm like that, but I'm like that with my children. And what I see is sometimes, ladies, we hear, but we don't really listen. I had not even finished what I said for a few seconds. And so no one had a chance or an opportunity to try to listen or run the thoughts back in their mind or to consider. It was just like, it was just shut down, right? And then I had another lady who came behind her and came back and and I don't know if it was to defend me or whatever, but it was like she was trying to clear up what she thought I was saying, which it was not what I was saying at all. It was like I was saying one point and the point that was made was different. And so I started thinking, I took the rest of that time. I was like, wow, we really do have a problem with hearing and listening and feeling as though we have to either protect other people as if they cannot make their own decisions, or if they don't have a strong mind that if they disagree, they disagree, but if they agree, they can agree. And what I see often more than not is we listen in 3D. And I've said this before. We listen to defend, deflect, and deny. And that is so prominent and is causing so many issues in our relationships. And in this mixed company meeting, there were men, as I stated before. None of the men said anything. The only comments I got of correction and deflection were from women. And so, ladies, we have to understand that we have to get to a point where we are able to hear, where we are able to listen. I remember the elder saying, you have two ears and one mouth, and that's so you can listen twice as much as you speak. And oh my goodness, while that's so simple and it's even a little cute and maybe even a little comical, it is so true. We have to get to the point where we can hear and listen a lot more than we speak. It cuts back on arguments. It cuts back on the drama. In addition to the fact that we're able to learn and soak up things. It's okay to hear new ideas. It's okay to listen to someone say something that does not necessarily agree with what we think, or to hear something that even disagrees and maybe even sounds like it's not something we can learn from. We can always learn. We can always be and do better. And it does not take anything away from us to be able to humble ourselves and just hear. After this particular meeting or gathering we were in, I was talking to my husband and we were going, well, I guess I was doing most of the talking. was listening. And I was saying how it's interesting how we sometimes as women, and let me say this, a disclaimer. I am not saying that I'm trying to silence anybody's voice because I know that's huge. I want to be heard, but there's a time and a place for everything. And everything that you think at the moment to say doesn't mean that it has to be said in that moment. So, no, I'm not saying we should be silenced and we should never speak and never come forward with what we're feeling. However, there are times when we have to be able to discern this is a time to speak, this is a time to wait. Maybe there's a better time. As a matter of fact, I have to tell you this story. This happened just this morning, literally this morning. My son had a very, very important appointment, and he had some paperwork that should have been printed out that was like of the utmost importance. It was totally urgent that he had this paperwork to prove that he had taken a class, and he couldn't get the printer to work. And I went in and said, okay, I'm the admin person, so pretty much I do anything that deals with paperwork and all of that. Well, I couldn't get the printer to work. And so my husband was like, what's going on? The printer's not working? I'm like, yeah, I don't know what's going on. It was my son's laptop. He prints from there. I print from everybody has their piece of equipment and they print from, but for some reason it wasn't working. So I'm trying different things. I'm trying to save the document. I'm trying to put it in a PDF. Then I'm trying to print it and it would not print. And we're running out of time. My husband's like, look, we need to get this done. And so he said to my son, why don't you just email the document to your mother and let her try to print it from her computer? Instantly. And I'm talking about myself, so I'm taking ownership, right? In my mind, I was like, that's not going to work. It doesn't matter where the document is coming from. The printer should be able to print from his computer, from my laptop, or whatever. So that was initially what I thought to say. But you know what I did? I exercised my Miranda rights. The one that says you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you in a court of law, right? I said, zip it. And I said, okay. I grabbed my laptop. He sent it to me, hooked it up, clicked the button. And in my mind, I was like, I hope this works, but I don't think it's going to work because it doesn't matter. And guess what? It printed. And I thought to myself, ding, ding, ding. There you go. Sometimes you just have to exercise your right to remain silent because I instantly wanted to tell my husband that the likelihood of that not working was very high and that it probably wouldn't, and that we would be wasting time hooking up a different computer when we can come up with another plan. And I'm so glad I exercised my right to remain silent and just went with it and said, okay, got what I needed to get done, and my son had the document, and they were out and on their way. And I'm saying this all to say that may be a minor example, although it was very important at that time because that document was very necessary. I thought back and said, wow, suppose I had given rebuttal. Well, that's not going to work. Well, we're running out of time. That doesn't make sense, right? Suppose I had tried to defend and say, well, you know what? This should have been done earlier. No, I just had to say, zip it. Go do the suggestion that my husband said, and it worked. And at the end, I looked at him and I said, thank you. I gave him a hug and I kissed him. I said, I love when you solve problems. Yes, I love when you solve problems. It went a whole different way because instead of me putting up resistance and rebuttal and him saying, well, why did you just do it? And me saying, but it's not going to work. I recognize the strength and the power in silence. We all went to our destinations in peace. So what am I saying? I am saying that there is a time to speak, but there's also a time to remain silent. It does not take anything away from us. Lots of times it empowers us, but we don't know because we are in the habit of giving pushback. Again, deflect, defend, deny. We need to really think about what the elders told us. It seems so minor and so trivial, but we do have two ears. to hear and to listen. And it is okay to hear a different opinion. It's even okay to hear an opposing opinion and to be able to think about that, not just be ready to rebuttal. And that's the thing I am seeing so much. And so I figured I'd come and just say, you know what, ladies? We need to do better. That's the bottom line. We need to do better. We need to be able to hear. And then we need to be able to listen. And then we need to be able to contemplate, to think. I think they did a disservice when we were in elementary school. I don't know if you experienced this, but we had teachers and we had to have quiet time. We just sat in a seat, put our head down, 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or whatever. And it had to be so quiet that the teacher could hear a pin drop. But you know what? Learning how to just be silent, even though it was 20 or 30 of us in the class and we wanted to speak and we wanted to move, it was a discipline. And it seems that it is a discipline that we need to get back because we feel the need to always defend, deflect, deny, to always feel that if a person does not agree with us, I need to give them pushback. What has happened to the ability to think, to contemplate, and consider what we're hearing? I think it has a little bit of to do with the emotionalism as well, because it can happen. We were all a little uptight this morning. My son, because he was trying to print the document, it didn't work. My husband, because he was ready to go and we weren't ready. And I'm like, you know what? I told you to do this days ago. So I had my little issues. And so the three of us all together were in a moment, right? Having some moments, trying to get this document printed. My son, of course, he had to be humble because he should have had this document printed. My husband, he had the right to feel the way he was feeling. He thought it was taken care of. And me, I'm like, I had to stop what I was doing and then come in to help you because you didn't do what you were supposed to be doing. But guess what? I was able to diffuse that by doing something as simple as remaining silent. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you will get the point of the importance of being silent, exercising that right. Make sure you hit the like, share, subscribe button. And until the next time, may you experience extraordinary love. Bye for now.